Hey, whiskey fans. I love whiskey. I love geeking and nerding out about every little aspect and piece of information that's written on a bottle of whiskey. But at one point, even I just have to admit, a lot of it's just marketing. And that bugs me. So grab a bottle, something with a bit of information on it. Let's go over it and see what I mean. Now, as I kind of mentioned, I like to geek out about every detail, every little bit of information that's written on a whiskey. It brings joy to my heart knowing what the recipe was, how it was produced, you name it. All these little details just bring me joy and make me feel like I'm part of the process, but also like I know what I'm tasting. That, let's say I taste something specific, I can kind of pick out from where that might have come from in the production. Now, this might be true for some distilleries in some places, but a lot of it, I'm torn. You see, the distiller might come up with a blend, might have a whiskey, might produce it with a certain vision. Realistically now, most large distilleries are just producing something because that's how it's been done and that's how it's going to make a reproducible taste. But if you're looking for something special, unique, or like a single barrel, the distiller or the producer might want to give you a lot of information. And of course, marketing might have some thoughts about that. What I mean by this is essentially a couple things. For starters, the best thing that you could ever do is get a single barrel if this is something that you're really interested about. Because essentially a single barrel, like a Four Roses single barrels, are the best example. We'll give you down here at the bottom not only the warehouse and the barrel number plus like the rack location, but usually, and this one had it on a tag, but I've since lost the tag, will tell you what recipe is being used. You see, Four Roses is a pretty interesting distillery, whereas they very specifically tell you one of the two different mash bills that they use and which yeast variation that they use. They actually have a whole bunch of different options that they can play around with. I'll link a video in the description of somebody which I think says it perfectly, and I won't try to do it again, but this is very cool. Again, with a single barrel, this might be an exception, and give me all the information you can. Even if you try to market it up, I'm kind of going to be able to figure out what you mean here, because I can look up the warehouse, I can look up plus minus where the rack is, and I can kind of figure out, okay, this whiskey was on a higher floor, was tight against the wall, had sun from east to west, was produced ABC when, and okay, this information could help me. But nowadays, more and more, distilleries are having to produce whiskey for a large amount of people. And they're doing this for a good reason. More people want to enjoy these different flavors. If they released a special tasting or a special blend or bottling, and it only had enough, let's say 200 bottles, hey, nobody would be able to really enjoy that. And way too few people would be able to taste and understand what the distillery is trying to express. This is why distilleries do blends. And I'll give you an example here. I've got, for instance, the Bomberg's blend right here, and this is a release that happens I think once a year. This is the 2025 release. This is bottle 1932 out of 2569, and I get the batch number here, which is very cool. I understand why they did that. They had to, otherwise nobody is going to be able to enjoy this whiskey. And even only having 2,500 bottles and this making it all the way to Switzerland, it's kind of insane to think. Because if you quickly do the math, if a barrel has, and we're talking about a 220 liter, like a typical barrel size, 50 gallons, barreled at 60% alcohol, we imagine it lost nothing. It's actually getting released from the barrel at 60% alcohol, being watered down to 50%. That gives us roughly 264 liters, going into 700 milliliter barrels, bottles, and this one here I didn't even check. This is also 700. So for a European release probably, you're only going to get 377 bottles. Even less if you're in the US and your bottle size is 350 milliliters. It's good that you got a bottle and you were able to access it and somehow get your hands on it, but only 352 plus minus were going to be released. And this is imagining 60% barrels sold at 50. That's not a lot of people. So add a zero to the end of that, and essentially that means that you've added 10 barrels into this blend, and now you've got 3,000 bottles plus minus that you're getting out to the world. Much more reasonable. But when you're blending whiskeys, this is where marketing really gets a chance to take over and get their hooks in. Nothing against blending. I love blenders. I love the taste that you're looking for, the flavors that you're looking to express. For instance, for this bottle here, you're probably looking to kind of give a little bit of that historic flavor, or maybe you found an old bottle and you're trying to represent that. You're trying to play homage to a certain flavor profile. That's amazing. You're able to do that. And please do it. But if you're just doing a general release, I mean, I've got like, I called it, back here somewhere, I've got a Woodford's bottle. And that bottle is like a chocolate malt or something. They were able to very specifically make this malt in a way that it was able to express more chocolate. And what I mean by that is whiskey barrels are really different. Doesn't matter what your whiskey that went into it was, your barrel will play an impact on that. And it just so happens, I don't know, different grain, different yeast, how the fermentation takes place. All of this means every one of your whiskeys is just a smidge different. To the point where if I go outside and I look at the 2 barrels which I have out there, and this is 2 of a batch, I took one 100-liter barrel, dumped it into 2 50-liter barrels, sister barrels. They were made with like 1, 2, 3 disappeared, and then 4. I have this, 1 and 4. And they taste so different from each other that if I gave you something to taste, you'd be like, okay, cool. There's 2 completely different, irrelevant batches. Nah, new make was the same, into the same large half cask, and now in 2 different quarter casks. Completely different. To the same extent, you've got stuff like this, which is actually a very cool blending set. Essentially the distillery, this is from Isla Rache Distillery. Sorry guys, I butchered the crap out of that. You can get these sets where you get all these different whiskeys, and I mean, just it's really awesome actually. You got some cask strength samples, ex-Woodford Reserve Rye, Virgin, Chickapine Oak, unpeated, peated Woodford Reserve Rye barrels, red wine, ex-Burgundy, red wine, peated samples. You got all this stuff. And you can blend. And if I give it to you, and I do it myself, we can blend something completely different out of the same batch. And marketing might tell us it came from this warehouse or this area or wherever, but it might not mean a lot because the blender had so much control. One final example. A couple months ago, I was at a Macallan tasting. I didn't buy any bottles, so I don't have any here to show you, partly for this reason. And I don't want to hate on Macallan. What they do with their sherry is really cool. With their sherry production is very cool. How they have like these 2 different independent sherry cooperages or producers. One uses only American oak, one uses Spanish oak, French oak. Super cool. And how they can choose and blend and make different releases based on these different types of barrels that they're using for aging. Awesome. Except their blends. They gave us these blends. One of them was a blend of the 2 with a higher percentage of American oak. It should be sweeter. It should have these vanillas and caramels. And then this is the French. This French oak is a little bit more tanniny. It's a little bit more bitey. It didn't need to be. They could have cherry-picked barrels for this batch and made it completely different. They could have looked to highlight any flavors or whatever parts of this whiskey that they wanted to. Instead, the marketing dictated because there's American oak, it has to be sweeter, and because it's French, it has to be more tannin forward. The wood did not choose that. The wood did not say that. The blending did. So until you can get your hands on a single barrel that's very true to what it is and is saying exactly the ingredients, and you know, okay, this is the recipe, this is the yeast, this is whatever that came out of it, and the barrel location, that's awesome. But most of the time, we're not going to get that. And you should just be ready to deal with a pretty high percentage of marketing before you really get down to the truth of the whiskey. For me, this just means enjoy the whiskey, respect the blender, and if you like it, you like it. It doesn't matter. Enjoy it. But be hesitant when you think you're learning something or you're going to go out to the world and preach. Because if you heard it from a rep or from marketing, treat it with a little bit of skepticism. With that, enjoy your whiskey, whatever it is, whatever was said about it. If you like it, that's important. Cheers to you, and stay nerdy. Bye now.